No Man's Sky, one of the most hyped up games of the year, and honestly the concept is incredible. It's quite literally a universe where you can explore until, well, basically until you die. There are infinite amounts of planets that you will be able to explore and discover. In this video, I'm gonna be talking about No Man's Sky. I want to be mentioning the good, the bad, as well as my recommendation on whether or not you should get the game. So here's the thing about the game. The developers didn't say a whole lot, other than the fact that you're going to be able to explore indefinitely. And because they weren't really answering very many questions, generally speaking, people are going to fantasize about what the game could be like. Because of this, the hype around the game has been absolutely crazy. It's one of the most hyped up games for this year for sure. And for good reason as well. There are only a couple of developers out there that make a game like No Man's Sky. Even though there's a huge market out there, not a lot of companies are willing to take the risk. So now that the game has been released, I want to be giving you my honest opinion and my honest thoughts about the game. Now the game has already been out for a couple of days on the console, but I decided to go with the PC version instead. So everything I'm going to be talking about here is based off of the PC version of the game. Alrighty, so first let's talk about the positive. The concept of the game is incredible. I mean, there is quite literally a universe out there that you can explore indefinitely. You can quite literally play this game for years and years and years and never really get across a planet that is similar to the ones you've already been to. Secondly, the art style is second to none. I'm a huge fan of the color scheme that they decided to go with. I mean, it's bright, it's beautiful, and the planets just all in all, as well as the game in general, look absolutely gorgeous. I don't think there's anyone that's going to deny that. I mean, sure, the textures could have been better, and I know that the PC version is lacking some quality here and there, but all in all, I gotta say the art style is definitely right up my alley. Also, the music in the game is superb. I really enjoyed listening to the in-game music. I don't know if it gets repetitive over time because I can imagine that at some point you've heard all of the tracks, but definitely in the first couple of hours, the music is superb. And if you are into exploration type games, this is going to be something you're going to have to try. But hear me out, because this is basically where the positives end. So here's the thing. In general, I am very positive about games. But honestly, No Man's Sky is not a very great game. And let me try and explain to you why that is. So since I'm basing everything off of the PC version of the game, let's talk about the quality of the port. So ever since I started playing, there was a huge amount of lag. I had constant lag spikes, lots of hitches, and in general the game seems to be poorly optimized. I'm running a very high-end system and I could not get a solid frame rate above 60 FPS, not even on the lowest quality settings. It seemed to either run at say 20 frames per second or at 120 frames per second, and I could not get a consistent frame rate whatsoever. I have tried a different resolution, I have tried different graphic settings, I have even tried another computer, but none of it gave me a stable frame rate. And all in all, the game just runs very inconsistently. I mean, you can probably see it in the gameplay right now as well. There are just random hitches, random hiccups for no apparent reason whatsoever. Sometimes I'm flying around and everything is smooth, and the other time I'm flying around and it's hicking all over the place. Obviously, those kinds of things are fixable with future patches, but all in all, the optimization of the game seems very, very poor. Every single time you make any changes in the settings whatsoever, for example changing from full screen to windowed, you have to restart the game, which is an absolute pain in the ass, and it just screams lack of quality. And last but not least, the default recommended setting is 30 frames per second with VSync on. When I first booted up the game, I was noticing lag all over the place, and that's because the game was locked at 30 FPS. Now you can change that with the in-game settings, but just because it's the default setting, it absolutely blew my mind. So the performance is pretty terrible, constant frame drops, and it seems that most people indeed had a similar experience to me. I have even heard reports of people who have very high-end PCs as well. I mean, people that do similar work like myself, who were not even able to launch the game whatsoever. It would just crash on startup. As a matter of fact, it seemed that I was lucky, as many people were just simply not getting any performance that was remotely close to mine. At the very least, for me, it was playable. Now let's talk about the controlling of the character as well as the spaceship on the PC. The mouse and keyboard controls were pretty horrendous. I've only played with the mouse and keyboard, but in general my character did not seem to respond very quickly at all. Every now and then I would be flying around close to the planet's surface and the ship would just simply not listen to me. I mean, yes, I could go left and right, but up and down seemed to be nearly impossible. Even if I would be nosediving down, I still would not get any response out of my ship whatsoever, as it just sort of was stuck, glued at the outside of the planet. Now this seems to be something that is the case as well on the console version of the game, so I am assuming that it's going to be attended by the developers, but all in all, it did not feel very responsive. Inventory management, which is a huge part of the game, does work, but generally speaking, it's very clearly ported over from a console. It is very clearly intended to be played with a controller, and while you can make it work with your mouse and keyboard as well, it's not intuitive whatsoever. Now, when I first loaded up the game, I was very overwhelmed about what was going on. I was trying to make sense of the world, but since the game crashed right as I loaded it up for the first time, I think I missed the tutorial, and I just simply couldn't make sense of what was happening. It took me about an hour to properly get into the game, and after a couple of hours I realized that I was basically doing the same thing over and over and over again. The goal of the game is to explore and head to the center of the universe. And for the first couple of hours, it genuinely is a cool concept. There's so much to explore, and the worlds seem to be infinite. However, I very quickly realized, within like 4 to 5 hours of playing, that I was just simply doing the same thing over and over and over again. And while I knew what I was in for when I first started up the game, I did anticipate there would be a little bit more to it than that. Yes, there is combat, and yes, there is trading, and yes, there technically speaking is an economy, but since the game is practically single player, it's very difficult to find the enjoyment in that. Once again, some of you may like that, and some of you may really enjoy that concept. To me, I was a little bit disappointed. Other than that, while you do come across different people and different races and whatnot, it seems to lack a sort of meaning, a story, a lore. I mean, yes, I understand that I need to get to the middle of the universe, but no, it doesn't seem to be very, very exciting at all, and not very challenging either. Now, I know very well that this is a sandbox game that is meant to be explored, but all in all, I expected more. Now, obviously, a lot of the things that I have mentioned in this video so far are things they can fix in future updates and future patches. In particular, performance increases are to be expected. However, that doesn't take away that the game does get repetitive rather quickly, and that the aim of the game is relatively unclear. Yes, it is a sandbox game, yes, there is a ton of exploration, and yes, technically speaking, there is infinite amounts of content, but gameplay-wise, it seems to be severely lacking. So here's the thing, all of the things that I have mentioned thus far are fixable and are something that they can patch in the future. However, the fact of the matter is that they're asking a €60 price tag. I had to pay a full price for a game that does not seem to be finished. It honestly feels more like a glorified tech demo than anything, and that is honestly my main issue with the game. They are asking a full price for something that is severely lacking in many ways. And while sure they may be patching it in the future, for €60 I expected more. Maybe if they would have asked for €20 or so instead, I would have probably recommended the game, in particular if they are actively going to increase the performance of it. But at this point in time, I cannot recommend No Man's Sky, as I think you should keep that €60 in your pocket, or at the very least spend it on other games that you will be able to enjoy a whole lot more. That said, the technology behind the game is absolutely incredible. It sort of seems like the developers of the game have at least somewhat forgotten to put in gameplay as well. I hope they continue with the development of the game, or maybe get bought by another company, because the technology, once again, is superb and it's something worth exploring further in the future. So if you enjoy a near infinite universe where you have hundreds and thousands of hours of gameplay that are potentially exciting to you and you enjoy exploration, yes, I can recommend No Man's Sky. But honestly, I think this game is far overhyped. In particular for its €60 price tag, I cannot recommend the game in its current state whatsoever. There are far too many performance issues to even consider buying the game right now. One thing you can do nowadays is get the game and see if it runs smoothly on your system. If it turns out it doesn't, you can get a Steam refund within 2 hours, so that may be something worth considering. But honestly, I think for €60 you can get so much more value, in particular during some summer sales, as there are so many great indie titles out there that are just far better. I honestly don't think that the developers of the game were trying to hype up the game so much. I mean, people just simply fantasize and expected far more than the game is able to offer. Obviously, they were looking to sell as many copies as possible, and I guess that makes sense. But for a small indie company, it is very hard to expect more, and I'm assuming that that hype is going to be the demise of No Man's Sky as well. And while there will definitely be people playing the game over the next couple of weeks, I'm assuming that within a month or two, pretty much everyone has forgotten about it. And as sad as that is, I think the technology once again behind the game is awesome, and that's worth exploring further in the future. Hopefully I made the purchase decision for some of you a little bit easier. Let me know what your thoughts are on the game down below in the comment section of the video. Do you think I'm being too harsh, or do you think what I'm saying is fair? Let me know down below. And other than that, I want to thank you all for watching. Have an amazing day. Do not forget to smile, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!